Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. In this episode, we're taking a look at another video game. This one is super obscure, just found out about it, but it's for the Virtual Boy, the Nintendo Virtual Boy, if you remember that. It's called SD Gundam Dimension War. Let's take a look at it. Okay, the Virtual Boy. So, if you're not in the know, this is something that came out like 95 or so. Nintendo was like experimenting, almost like a pre-3DS thing. It was almost a virtual reality thing that you would wear on a stand on a shelf or table. It's kind of odd. I had never owned one, but I had played it back in the day. Blockbuster had a rental system for it, but nothing really interested in man it. Anytime I played it, it seemed very gimmicky, and that's kind of what it was going for because it was like kind of 3D. But anyway, so I'm just bringing this up because just recently an emulator showed up on the 3DS that allows you to play Virtual Boy games with that kind of 3D perspective that was intended with those original games. I've mentioned it before with that Mobile Suit Gundam 3D battle on the 3DS that, I played it on emulator, but on the 3DS, seeing that depth of field really felt more immersive. And so I wanted to check out Virtual Boy games kind of in that immersive nature that I think is intended. But looking at the ROM list, and there's not that many games, I saw Gundam on there. Obviously, I had to look. A Japanese exclusive turn-based strategy game for the Virtual Boy based on the Gundam anime series, December 1995. It's an interesting game. So playing it, my thought going in is, okay, this is going to be very gimmick-based. I might not like this. I don't want to get my expectations up. But I'm going to dive into what it was like playing it and compare it to maybe some other Gundam games that are out. So there's this grid screen that you might be familiar with. It's very much of that SD Gundam strategy nature, and that's kind of all this really is, with a twist. So what's interesting is you're looking at that SD Gundam battlefield in an isometric view because it's trying to show off that 3D where you're really seeing the depth between the items. And I'm telling you, seeing it in person in 3D really, really does work. When you're watching it like this, or I saw another video of someone reviewing the game, but they were playing in an emulator where it wasn't red and black, it was just white. Everything was flat. They're complaining on how it feels to play, and I can only assume that's because they're not doing it in its intended way, where you get that 3D perspective. Because playing that 3D Gundam game, I loved how I'm flying around in space and the Musai's shooting at me, and I'm just seeing those lasers fly past me. That feels great. It's the same way in the shooting in this. So you're on a strategy battlefield, and you go to move, and then you go to where you're going to attack. And when you do, it kind of turns into what is very reminiscent of the Mario Tennis game on the Virtual Boy, where it's really trying to show perspectives of two planes that you would be looking at, the foreground and the background, and then the shooting. So what you're watching as the lasers and bullets are coming at you, going toward the enemy, and you're kind of using that perspective of trajectory to land your target. But it is annoying, and it is time-consuming, and it's just a lot of shooting. And sometimes there's multiple phases, because there'll be one where you're using the triggers, or as I am on the 3DS controller, to move in the foreground as the enemy's moving in the foreground and the background. So think of the tennis players, but you can actually manipulate and go all the way. And as you're doing that, you're really just hitting the attack button. And you're just hoping it lands. It feels very old school, very Space Harrier-like in a way, and it's not that great, but it's interesting. So that's what the game is. It's that turn-based strategy that we're all familiar with and that works and that would work even in this format. But then it goes into some real-time 2D, but moving in a 3D space sort of fighting, which is interesting. I like that concept of going into real time, but it's just really hard to see what you're actually doing and just moving around so fast that it's just kind of whatever. But it's a good gimmick. It's cool that they tried this, and the fact that they bothered getting a licensed Gundam game on such a niche and unique system. So it was developed by a team called Locomotive Corporation. There's not too much that they were involved with. Star Tropics, Zoda's Revenge, Star Tropics 2, Aero Gauge going to N64, Super Nintendo, Virtual Boy. So they were kind of, it looks like maybe exclusively Nintendo. Now, if you were to get this game today, like if you want on eBay or wherever to buy it, it's known to be one of the most expensive or rare Virtual Boy games. I'm seeing one that's currently up for $591. If we look at listings that have sold, we see $212. We see 3,500. Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but not one I would buy unless, of course, Bandai was to somehow re-release this on a modern platform for us to replay. You wouldn't have that 3D, unfortunately, which I think is very interesting because I recently got a 3DS just to experience the Gundam Battle 3DS game, because the emulation just doesn't allow to get that gameplay, and it's the same with like the DS. Like, I love how I got the 3DS so I could play games in 3D, but also it has the dual screen so I can even play 2D DS games with the stylus the way they're meant to be played. That's a great scenario. With this Virtual Boy on top of it, it kind of reminds me how very revolutionary and unique Nintendo is with its gaming. If you're thinking of emulating some of the games they have out you would from the past, you would have to have unique hardware to do so. I mean, even considering the Wii and the Wii U. Link in the description for where you can get this Virtual Boy emulator. Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think. If this is something they were to re-release and it wouldn't have the 3D, it would be interesting I would buy it. It's just a fun little Gundam thing. But the thing is, if you're a gamer looking for a game to play and you don't really care too much about Gundam, this is not going to be your thing. But if you're the type of gamer that kind of likes the neat, quirky Japanese gaming, I like strategy with a little bit of interesting real-time combat done in the 2D era, it's actually quite interesting to check out. So it's cool that it exists in the first place. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think below. Thanks to all the supporters that make this possible. Check the links in the description for ways you can support the channel if you're interested in that, or just join our Discord. We have a lot of fun there. It'll be good to see you there. So until next time, be cool.